Larkin Rose here. First, a reminder that January 20th, the LA premiere, the official red carpet premiere of Jones Plantation, will be happening in Los Angeles. Description below will give you details about that and how to get tickets. I'll be there, and the director will be there, and a bunch of cast members will be there, and a grand old time will be had by all. Yeehaw. So, on with the video. Have you heard? The Colorado Supreme Court said Trump's name can't be on the ballot. Oh my gosh. Our democracy is threatened. Will this mean civil war? Does this mean anything? No, it's all part of a big, stupid, utterly pointless show, and it's kind of sad that so many supporters of Trump think they're doing something rebellious by supporting a pro-authoritarian, control freak, collectivist, corrupt slimeball while imagining they're somehow being anti-establishment. Now, is it ridiculous that the Colorado Supreme Court did that? Yes. Is it ridiculous to pretend that January 6th was an insurrection? Yes, that's the dumbest thing imaginable. It wasn't anything. It was a frat party at most. And so the whole show that they put on, and then the political left is like, oh, we have to have hearings about this. And then later video comes out and mostly shows, well, it's just people milling around, like, who gives a crap? And they were, like, let in. But that whole story, and now going into the thing of, well, this means civil war, is so pathetic. Civil war over what? We didn't get our crooked, lying, slimeball, corrupt piece of crap on the throne. So, it's ridiculous for anybody to think that stopping Trump from sitting on the throne is going to make any difference compared to Biden sitting on the throne. There's no difference. There's zero substantive difference between the two. None at all. By the way, some people seem to have forgotten this. Trump was president before. He didn't change anything that mattered. He didn't undo anything. He didn't even undo the stuff he could have done as president, which isn't all that much. He didn't even do that much. Could have at least pardoned a bunch of people. And he didn't because he doesn't care. And he's not pro-freedom in any way, shape, or form. So when people are talking of civil war over this, over a different, old, corrupt, pathological liar with a family of crooks that doesn't give a shit about anybody but their own power and glory and money, exactly like the Bidens, by the way. And then, in the meantime, you have the Bidens basically making sure that there won't be Democratic primaries against them, because anybody running against that, demented old, perverted, corrupt piece of crap would probably be a threat to him. So the Democratic Party, while talking about, we need to preserve our democracy. By the way, we don't give a crap whatever any of you Democrats want. You have to vote for our particular crook that nobody wants, and he's incoherent and can't form a complete sentence or a thought or anything. But it's all about preserving democracy. And the fact that people don't know how to think in principles makes them do this stupid thing of looking at it like a football game. Our guy, Trump, is going to save the day. By doing what? What does he believe? Like, name a principle that Donald Trump believes in. Don't say freedom, because he doesn't believe in freedom at all. He's, like, openly aspiring to be a dictator. And he's all in favor of all the same bankers running all the same scams. He appointed all the same ones. He's all in favor of warmongering. He wants a slightly different flavor of warmongering to pretend to distinguish himself from the Biden warmongering or any other warmongering that the ruling class does. Are any of them anti-war? No. Are any of them pro-freedom? No. Are any of them in any way, shape, or form on the side of the people? No. And the fact that so many Trumpites haven't noticed that. He didn't do anything for you. He doesn't give a shit about you. He gives a shit about himself and nobody else, exactly like Biden. And so to point to like, this is an outrage that we can't vote for this particular crooked piece of crap. Okay, why? What would you hope, if you're the most devout Trump supporter, what would you hope that he's going to do? What do you hope he's going to accomplish? What is the accomplishment of a second Trump presidency that the country just can't do without? Like, what the hell do you think he's even going to do? What did he do the first time around? Nothing of substance. Well, he played with the tax laws, and there was a little bit less taxation on some people and more robbery on others, and we cheered for tariffs because we were too dumb to know that when he talks about taxing China, he's taxing Americans because the U.S. can't tax China. Duh. Like, maybe read a civics book. He taxed you, and you went rah, rah, rah for a tax increase known as tariffs, and made it so you can't buy stuff from other countries and made you go rah, rah, rah about that. But fishing as hard as you can for something vaguely resembling an actual pro-freedom principle that you hope Trump would actually achieve, despite the fact that he doesn't even talk like that and doesn't care and doesn't even pretend to be pro-freedom. Instead of trying to vote for a different corrupt piece of crap, here's a thought: disobey. You don't need a civil war to disobey. Civil war is bickering about what lying piece of crap is going to sit on the throne bossing everybody around. Why the hell do you want that? If you're actually anti-establishment, and for some delusional reason you think Trump is anti-establishment, why do you need his permission? Why do you need his legislative favors to tell you to not get robbed as much? Don't give them your money. Oh, we can't have that. That would be chaos and lawlessness. We need a king up there telling us we're allowed to keep a little bit more, sort of. A big complicated equation. We still have to fill out the forms and do all these dumb things and give them a whole bunch of money so they can do warmongering and a bunch of other idiotic authoritarian crap, whether it's Democrat or Republican. But we can't just have the chaos of stop bowing to idiots. So Trumpites who think you're being anti-establishment, why don't you stop bowing to idiots? Instead of bitching about the fact that your idiot isn't the one bossing you around and stealing your money, that corrupt, crooked piece of shit that is Donald Trump. And see if you can get your brain to process the fact that me making fun of Trump as just the unprincipled, pathological liar slimeball that he is doesn't at all change the fact that Biden and his whole family, bunch of pathological, slimeball, corrupt liars too, playing the same game and doing the same things. Don't let your inability to think outside of that box make you assume that nobody else can think outside of it. So if you're actually anti-establishment, why are you trying to put a different guy on the throne instead of disobey the establishment? Learn how to just disobey them. If they pass a mandate, oh, he pushed this thing and warp speed, it's a beautiful vaccine. It's the most beautiful vaccine you've ever seen. That slimeball pushed the same fear-mongering crap, Trump, that Biden did. Did you go along with it? Did you even complain when your crook was pushing that crap on you to enrich Big Pharma at the expense of everybody else's freedom and health? Or did you just turn a blind eye because, well, that's our guy? And now you're whining about civil war. This won't stand. They can't not allow us to be oppressed by our own crooked piece of crap. Really? That's where you're going to take a stand? And no, you're not. We're not going to have a civil war. We're going to have a bunch of whiny idiots. And like we had a bunch of whiny idiots on January 6th. Like, what were you doing? What were you trying to accomplish, the people who went and did that? We object, okay? Object really loudly. Make an ass of yourself. Accomplish nothing. Like, they weren't even trying to overthrow the government, because if you're going to try to overthrow the government, even they aren't dumb enough to think you can do it without guns. They didn't show up with that intention. It was not an insurrection by any sane definition. It was a bunch of people having a protest and whining about stuff, and And, like, you might be able to call it a riot in some places, although a lot of the time they were just let in and sort of strolling around. But whoop-de-friggin-do, that was never a threat to the establishment in any way, shape, or form. And that's the pathetic thing, is you had a bunch of people who now got arrested and prosecuted and thrown in prison for doing something completely stupid that accomplished absolutely nothing against the system. Way to go. You played the game of politics, and then you played the game of having a tantrum if your guy lost. And by the way, it doesn't even make any difference to me whether there was cheating and they stole votes. It doesn't make any difference who's on the throne. He was already there, remember? He was on that stinking throne for 4 years. What did he do? What did he accomplish that you think the second time around, when he's a lame duck, he would somehow do something even better than the nothing he did the first time? So the idea that this is some big important thing for people to be upset about is ridiculous. Trumpites, if you're upset that your crooked piece of shit isn't there and somebody else's crooked piece of shit is there, get a principle, get a brain. What do you actually want to have happen? What do you actually want to have fundamentally different than what we have right now? Because Trump is not fundamentally different than anything. He was already there. He didn't do anything. What was the end result of him being there? Biden being elected. Biden being elected. Trump was such a pathetic nothing and achieved so little that the result was Biden. Nobody likes Biden. He's a slimy old pervert. And nothing else. He doesn't believe anything. He doesn't accomplish anything. If they had run somebody actually coherent, like at least Obama was a good BSer. He's a total slimeball, warmongering, corrupt piece of crap. But he was good at the bullshit. Biden isn't good at the bullshit. Trump isn't even good at the bullshit. And the only reason anybody imagines him to be is because he's rude. They literally mistake him being rude and disrespectful, which the funny part is I'm okay with somebody being rude and disrespectful towards the establishment, but he is the establishment. So thinking that, well, he's rude and that makes him one of us, a rude idiot, okay? You want to join together with your fellow rude idiots and cheer for a rude idiot who doesn't give a crap about you and will happily rob you blind and you know, do one grift after another on his own supporters and voters. If you give me lots of money, I will save the world. No, he's thinking, well, he'll enrich himself. He'll get glory for himself. And he'll demonstrate for 8 billion more times that he doesn't give a shit about you. And you can see how long you're going to put up with that. And how long you'll go along with it. The notion of civil war. Like, we had a civil war in this country that wasn't even a civil, even that one is a civil war is supposed to be fighting over who gets to sit on the throne. Now, what gets called the Civil War in U.S. history was a bunch of states saying, we don't want your throne, we want to not be a part of your thing, we want to secede. And then the Union saying, well, you don't get to secede because we like tax dollars coming from you guys, so we're going to force you to be part of this more perfect union by violently keeping you in the game. So that wasn't a civil war either. But when people are this easy to rile up against each other when there's absolutely nothing at stake, that's pathetic. There is absolutely nothing at stake with, like, getting Trump's name back on the ballot. Who gives a shit? What difference do you think that makes to anything of any substance? And if you actually believe in our democracy, you're delusional anyway. There hasn't been, like, actual democracy, direct democracy is absolutely immoral. That's the majority violently imposing its will on the minority. We haven't even had that for a gazillion years. Nobody cares how you vote. The two parties don't give a shit what you want. They put up two puppets, they put on the puppet show, they have Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson, and you're supposed to think it matters, and you're supposed to play the game, and you can get a little bit upset when the other puppet wins. But when there's literally nothing even resembling a fundamental philosophical difference, it's extra pathetic that anybody falls for it. And if you're a supporter of Trump and you think there's actually some substantive reason to give a crap whether that slime ball is on the ballot or not, what difference does it make? Because he's going to stand up for our gun rights. Oh, wait a minute. He single-handedly did the worst federal gun control of our lifetime without even legislative help. He made several 100,000 Americans into felons overnight by telling the lawyers, change the definition of machine gun to include bump stocks. Democrats would never have dared to do that. He did that. Yeah, but he's for due process. You mean like, I believe in taking the guns first and go through due process second. He frickin' said that in front of cameras. Were you not paying attention? So he doesn't give a crap about Second Amendment or the Fourth or Fifth. Fifth being due process. He doesn't give a crap about that. He openly admires tyrants. If you think that it's so important that Trump be on the ballot, you don't know how to think. He doesn't matter. His bullshit noise doesn't mean anything. He has no principles. He doesn't believe in anything. And if you just fall for it because, well, he's loud and insulting to those people I don't like, that's the threshold? That's what you think makes somebody your savior? Is that he's a rude asshole? No, don't get me wrong. I'm all in favor of people being rude assholes to the political Democratic machine. They certainly deserve it. And so does the political Republican machine for the exact same reason. But to think that that counts as you're going to give somebody that much power because he's an asshole? Like, that's the entire reason. That is the entire attraction to Trump. He doesn't believe anything. He has no principles whatsoever. But he's an asshole, and you think he's your savior because he's an asshole. It's that simple. People admire Trump because he's an asshole to other people in the establishment. Notice I don't say the establishment, because he is the establishment and has been forever. He was a New York liberal. He was buddies with the Clintons. He's buddies with all sorts of slime balls, including Jeffrey Epstein, by the way. He's on the list, too. If people can be manipulated in a way, like in the Jones Plantation, we portray Mr. Jones and we portray Mr. Johnson. Their two campaigns are actually fundamentally different. Now, what they would do isn't different at all because it's putting on a puppet show. But they actually portray a difference in belief, with Johnson, this won't be that much of a spoiler, Johnson basically being the political left thing of, we'll take care of you, everything will be equal and fair, and you'll get free this, that, and the other thing. And then the Jones pitch at one point along the line of being, well, the harder you work, the more you should be rewarded, instead of like people getting something for nothing, and yada, yada, yada. In our fictional movie, The Jones Plantation, there is literally more of a reason for people to get excited about Mr. Jones or Mr. Johnson than there is for anybody to get excited about Biden or Trump. Because there's no stinking difference. in our fictional slave plantation movie, there's more substance. I would have more respect for the people who get excited about Mr. Jones running for plantation manager than I would for people who get excited about Trump, who doesn't believe anything about anything. And to have any talk of civil war, again, I think that's the media totally overblowing it, and that's not going to happen. But the fact that anybody is like irate about, how could you not have his name on the ballot? How the hell can you think his name on the ballot makes the slightest bit of stinking difference? He was already there. He did nothing. 4 more years of nothing when he has even less to lose. It's ridiculous. And so if people learn to think, like, what do we want? What are the violations that the establishment is doing to us that we've had enough of? This is it. If your line in the sand is, I've had enough, and I'm going to vote for a slightly different, loud, obnoxious, corrupt slimeball crook to show how brave and different I am, like, then you aren't anything. You're not being rebellious. You're not being pro-freedom. You're just being an idiot falling for the same game they've played forever. They just ramped it up to look more like professional wrestling, like literally professional wrestling, and you fell for that. But if there's something you're actually against, like if you can point to actual authoritarian injustices, I mean, if you could do that, you wouldn't support Trump because you'd realize, oh, he's on their side in every way that matters and has been forever. He's on the side of the establishment when it comes to taxation and gun control and warmongering and everything else. There's no fundamental difference. But if you can name something that you're actually opposed to, like there shouldn't be federal gun control. Okay, now this is still within the statist paradigm. Why don't you just disobey it? Well, no, we need them to give us permission. Okay, then you lose. You already lost. Because you think the path to freedom is voting somebody who will tell you you're allowed to be free. And Trump isn't that. Nobody is that. But I think, so the good news, having made fun of a bunch of people in this video already, the good news, I think a lot of people are just fed up and just think this is just a dumb, stupid spectacle. Now, those people don't necessarily have principles yet. They haven't figured out what the alternative is to this ridiculous puppet show. And that, I mean, the Jones Plantation does the same thing. It shows them the evil, psychotic puppet show. It doesn't tell them what to think instead, doesn't tell them how things should be. But hopefully after people watch it, people will go, that's what we have is definitely not what we should have. And maybe we have to start thinking of something fundamentally different, which doesn't mean Trump, and it doesn't mean Biden, and it doesn't mean Republicans, and it doesn't mean Democrats. And it doesn't mean libertarians, and it doesn't mean Green Party, and it doesn't mean communism, and it doesn't mean 57 other flavors of what's the king on the throne going to tell us to do next. So while I'm making fun of people for supporting Trump, and I would definitely make fun of people who support Biden just as much, if not even more so, because he is as establishment as you can get. Like, how can anybody even pretend otherwise? Oh, God. Like Biden coming out, last year we beat Big Pharma. What the hell are you talking about? You use the violence of the state and the propaganda of the machine to give Big Pharma like tens of billions of dollars at the expense of everybody else's freedom and health. And by the way, Trump did the same stinking thing. He helped with that entire conspiracy. And yes, obviously it was a conspiracy. Anybody who still pretends that wasn't a conspiracy, you're just delusional. But Biden is 100% establishment crook too. But if people don't have any different opinion other than I don't like the status quo, you're a useful idiot for the worst people in the world, because the worst people in the world rose to power bashing the status quo, but not actually giving anything like a coherent or moral principle. Lenin and Stalin were against the status quo. Mao was against the status quo. The Third Reich was against the status quo. And they all had pretty good reasons for condemning and criticizing the status quo in their own time and place. Did that make that a great solution? No. Is Trump a solution to anything? No. Are the people falling for it just empowering the same cycle of stupidity? Yeah. If you support Trump, you don't have to tell me why, but at least tell yourself why. What the hell do you think he believes in that is an actual foundational principle? It isn't freedom. It isn't, and you can go right down the list of specific issues. It isn't gun rights. It isn't the right to not be robbed by a ruling class. He absolutely thinks you should be robbed by a ruling class. He just bickers about exactly how much. So before you get all riled up, this is what I support. Start by saying, at least in your own head, what is it that you personally want to see happen? And if what you personally want to see happen is just someone being a loud asshole against people you don't like, wow, like that's your contribution to humanity. I support loud assholes because those people don't like it. Libtard tears. Yeah, while they keep robbing you and bossing you around. You're just an idiot. If you can't put into your own words or into your own thoughts the things that you want to be fundamentally different, how the hell do you think anything's going to change? You don't even know what you want. Trumpites don't even know what they want. And they don't know what Trump advocates because it isn't anything. It's no principles. So when they get all riled up that, how dare you not allow him to be on the ballot in Colorado and blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? It makes no difference. And the proof of that is you can't even say what difference you hope it would make. You can't even describe the ideal that you would do if you had the power to do it. All you can do is whine about, well, I like this loud asshole, and I think he'll save the day. And it's so pathetic to see. And then the other side is, again, the other side is just as pathetic. The people who have tantrums at Trump and their criticisms from the left of Trump, most of them are just made up. He's racist. Like, of all the things you could actually complain about, that's just stupid and made up. Almost entirely. Now, he does do the xenophobe thing of, we need to be beautiful. We need government violence restricting something else, because that's always the path to freedom and justice. But the complaints from the Democrats about Trump are just ridiculous, and they're just as substance-free as the reason Trump supporters want him to be there. There's nothing to that. Zero at all. Now, does Trump talk like a wannabe dictator? Yeah, because he is. And so is Biden. Obviously. And what they push, just obviously, neither of them believe in freedom. So, if they had criticized both sides equally and go, yeah, it turns out everybody running for office is like a tyrannical, corrupt piece of shit. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Now maybe think outside the box. But watching the zealous Trumpites and the zealous Trump haters screaming at each other is the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in American politics. Because neither of them have the slightest hint of a principle between them. Not one stinking shred. You didn't even require them to put on a show with any substantive difference for you to be screaming at each other. You didn't even require them to put up somebody who had a principle or an idea. Like at least Reagan, he had his propaganda and he had his ideas and dared to say things like government is not the solution, government is the problem. Now, there's plenty to complain about that because it didn't go that direction and it just turned into more authoritarian garbage. But at least with that propaganda, there was sort of a message to be behind, like pro-freedom. Trump doesn't even do that, and Biden sure as hell doesn't do that. Are you that easy to pit against your neighbors that they don't even have to really come up with any philosophy on either side for you to get either excited about or scared of? It's two just nothing sandwiches screaming at each other, and you have a bunch of people falling for that. It's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. You know, that when it was the BS of Obama, okay, I could see people falling for that. Ignorant people, yeah. People not really paying attention and clueless about how authoritarian collectivism works. But at least he was a good bullshitter. At least Obama was a half-decent liar for his warmongering bullshit crap that he pushed along with everybody else. So I could see people falling for it. If you fell for the Trump train, you're an idiot. And if you're one of the people that all you can focus on is, I'm scared of Trump, so vote Biden, you're the same idiot. You're not even a different idiot. You're the same idiot as the person cheering for Trump. Because neither of you has a principle. Neither of you has an idea. Neither of you has anything resembling an actual philosophy that you're even trying to get into power. You're hating each other based on nothing. Not even decent rhetoric. Not even decent propaganda. And it's pathetic to watch. And the fact that in our silly little movie, Jones Plantation, well, I don't think it's silly or little, But what we portray as the puppet show they put on does a better job with propaganda and philosophy than either major party in this country is doing right now, and people still fall for it. You're worse. If you fall for Trump's garbage or Biden's garbage, you're worse than the people who fell for Smith's puppet show that he puts on in Jones Plantation. Because at least there's a reason for people to have fallen for that, because that was actually persuasive. The character Mr. Smith, he's way better at propaganda than the Republicans or the Democrats are. And yet tons of people are still falling for it. You're going to make it that easy for you to be manipulated? They don't even have to be creative. They don't even have to be good at it. And you'll still scream at your neighbors over something absolutely meaningless, where there's no shred of a hint of a principle on either side, not even a fake principle, which is all the principles politicians ever have. They don't even have a fake one. And you're still falling for it. Like I said, I don't believe this country is quite dumb enough to go to civil war. But if you're angry and frothing at the mouth and yelling at somebody else for supporting Trump or for opposing Trump, you're an idiot. Please stop being an idiot. Can you just stop being an idiot long enough to think of actual principles and think, well, what would be fundamentally different and make this place better than it is now? Because Trump isn't that, and Biden isn't that, and nobody else running for office is that. And it's so frustrating that the propaganda can be that bad. I could do way better propaganda than either of the parties did if I was a soulless pawn of the machine out there pushing their propaganda. And by the way, I did do better propaganda. It's called The Screenplay of Jones Plantation. And if you haven't seen that, check that out and see at least propaganda that people would have a half-decent excuse for falling for, instead of the people falling for Trump and falling for Biden, where the propaganda is just crap. So, yeehaw, please stop being so easy to dupe and rile up against each other over absolutely nothing. Humanity sort of needs you to be less stupid than that, okay?